You know, it really is mind-blowing, you know, and for most people. But it's surprising to the ones who are sleeping, you know. The evil ones on the planet, they had more than one place that they operated from. You know, they really understood how to build the structure of things, like in the whole world side, the whole world. How did they build the structure? They had four major cornerstones. Not one, not two, not three, but four major cornerstones. And you know what happens when you take a cornerstone and knock it out? Ooh, boom. That's what we're watching. Hi there, Neil here, the Twisted Lightworker. Cornerstones of the Cabal are tumbling, no question about it. What are those four cornerstones? This is a really condensed overview of all that's been taking place, and an overview of the four cornerstones and how they've been tied together. And by the end of this, you'll see that we're reaching the last cornerstone that has to be knocked down completely. So let's get right at it. The four cornerstones, what are they? There's the Vatican, Bank of International Settlements with the WEF, which is World Economic Forum. That's where the WHO comes out of, and the European Union all tied in. That was a European arm of deep state. Evil bunch, evil bunch. Then we had the military industrial complex, which was head office was, of course, the Pentagon. So the infiltration of the evil ones were right in our military, right in the U.S. government, and the rogue players of the military industrial complex were a bunch of evil people, and they really did their part. And then we had London, England, which is the city of London, which is the center of London, England. That is independent state, same as Washington, D.C. was an independent state. Washington, D.C. was not part of the United States, but it is now. And London Financial Center was not part of the UK either. It was its own entity, and that was controlled by the Cabal. So, if you remember the Vatican was fun. That was when we got to watch Trump make Pope Francis a little bit of an unhappy character.
I love it.
But the Vatican was in charge of an awful lot of money. Money laundering was put through there. Tons of money laundering was done through the Vatican. And that's the hub of a lot of the human trafficking and satanic rituals. Everything, the evil infiltrated that in a huge way. Now, the Vatican was around a long time. So you can see now Rome is still part of the system that we are being held under. Roman Empire never fell. It actually just changed its face and made a little bit of a difference. And the Vatican was one of the major cornerstones of that operation. Of course, we know the 𝓘𝓷𝓽𝓻𝓸𝓭 Mafia and whatnot tied into that as well. And a lot of things have proven to be surprisingly true and deeply corrupt, satanically corrupt. So then we had what? We had the Bank of International Settlements, World Economic Forum, the WHO, the European Union, all tied into together. And remember when Trump went in and showed himself as being the boss, he pushed everybody away. That was priceless. That was absolutely priceless. So that was a long time ago. Like what happened in the Vatican and what happened in the European Union and tied into the WHO, World Economic Forum, the Bank of International Settlements was a big, huge money hub. And a lot of people who study finance don't know a whole lot about the Bank of International Settlements, because it really was a monstrosity of a machine laundering money. That's really what they really did. And then we had the military-industrial complex, the Pentagon. That was the head office of the evil side of the military. So we have the evil side of the CIA, the evil side of FBI, DOJ, and they're still being taken down. But that's all underneath the military-industrial complex. One big operation. And Space Force was tying together of the good things that come to that. All of the military alliance of all the countries that are involved in taking down the cabal, taking down deep state, they're all being now monitored and controlled by the command center, which is Space Force. So the cleaning up of the military industrial complex has been taking place for a long time. And the one that brought that to the majority of people's attention was Derek Johnson. Derek put together a 600-page downloadable file. It's probably more now if he's added to it, but when I downloaded it, it was around 600 pages, talking about and showing links to the executive orders that Trump had signed and put into motion in his first term that are still in operation right on through the fake Biden presidency. The whole operation's been continuing. And Derek did a really good job of making the Anons and all of the people aware of that side of it. That's when we learned about devolution and the continuity of government. Derek was instrumental. Now, a lot of people who have decided that they're going to go against Derek because he's rather rude and aggressive with a lot of his talks. But I'm not going to be that way at all, because think about it. What weakens us is feeling offended by the deeds and misdeeds of our fellow men. Our self-importance requires us to spend most of our lives offended by someone. I'm personally not offended by people swearing and putting other people down, because even though that's rude and not classy, it's not evil. It's just disgusting in those ways of being rude and not classy. So I'm never going to put him down, and I'm not going to step into that judgment road and lay accusations against the man that really did wake up the whole truther movement on what's going on with the executive orders and how it ties into the law of war manual. He brought us to, like I said, I brought our attention to the fact that a lot of the military was being cleaned up. And thanks to Hank Smith, it's still being cleaned up now, and Space Force is orchestrating the worldwide operation. And it's taking place right before our eyes. Everybody should be able to see this happening, but not everybody has the ability to you open their minds. Open their minds. They got closed minds. A closed mind, no matter how much your eyes are seeing, closed mind won't let you see it. Brainwashing. There's too much of that going on. And it's been that way since Moby Dick was a guppy, and he's already a dead whale. He's a dead whale. So we've covered a little bit of all of these things now. We've got the Vatican, Bank of International Settlements. Of course, that's with the WHO, and all of the European Union and a lot of those operations, the globalist agenda and all of that, the whole thing that tied into the European Union, that, the military-industrial complex. So we've seen the three of the four corners. Now, what's the fourth corner? It's London. The city of London, right in the heart of the United Kingdom. Now, many people don't know this, but the city of London is not part of the UK. The financial hub is its own entity, the same as Washington, D.C. was its own entity and not part of the United States. But it is. Now it's part of the United States. But it wasn't until Trump took it back, and he had the military parade there to prove That was a symbolism. That was a symbolic day to let everybody know that Washington, D.C. has been taken back. And now it's part of the United States, the Republic of the United States. Republic of the United States. So, what did we have? We had so many things going on. We had, I'm going to jump back here. The Vatican with its corrupt money laundering, evil, human trafficking, tied in with the Bank of International Settlements in Switzerland, with the World Economic Forum, military-industrial complex. All of that was such a mess. And the London now being exposed is the best part, to see that that's where we're at. And to give you a little bit more of a better update on what's taking place and how London ties into the financial operation and how London's tied into the oil movement through the Strait of Hormuz, the works, I'm going to put a little insert in here from Promethean Action, 𝓱𝓮𝓻𝓮𝓵. Let her explain it in great deal. She does a great job.
Iran wasn't the target. The British imperial system was. And on April 16th, Scott Bessent walked into a room with the British Chancellor of the Exchequer and said it out loud. Here's the Treasury readout. During their discussion, Secretary Bessent underscored the U.S. Treasury's commitment to economic fury, leveraging all tools and authorities against those who continue to support Iran's terrorist activities. He's underscoring the mission of economic fury to Britain's top financial officer. Bessent's warning is an on-the-record example of a new reality. The Trump administration has the empire's number and is systematically dismantling its power, which is why the Hudson Institute is now pinning its hopes on a royal visit. They want King Charles to save the special relationship when he heads to the United States later this month, because, as they put it, it matters not only for themselves, but for the alliance they lead and for the broader international system that depends on their cooperation. That last phrase, the broader international system that depends on their cooperation, is actually the target of Donald Trump. He knows it, and the British know it. Guess who doesn't know it, or if they do, they're not going to tell you? The former MAGA influencers and the mainstream media who scream that Trump is sold out or that his policies are leading to disaster. Well, here's what they're all missing. Iran wasn't the target. The British imperial system was and is the target. I'm 𝓱𝓮𝓻𝓮𝓸𝓭𝓾. I've watched British geopolitics play out in a never-ending Mideast conflict for 50 years and waited for an American president to end that game. Well, now we have one, and Promethean Action has been in the forefront of explaining to you what this conflict is really all about. So if you want to keep getting the real story, like, share, and subscribe so that we can expand our reach. Here's what I'm going to cover. First, how Donald Trump has taken both Iran and Israel off the board. Second, how Bessent's economic fury is just the latest move to break London's economic extortion. And third, why the elites are wringing their hands and hoping King Charles will save the empire. Now, as of this morning, there are reports that Iran has moved to close the strait. We don't yet know how serious this is or how long it will last. But here's what it doesn't change. The strait was never just Iran's weapon. It was London's leverage. And Trump's target was never the strait itself. It was the system that monetized it. That system is what is being dismantled. And that holds regardless of what happens in the next 48 hours. In fact, if you look at Trump's post about no longer being used as a weapon against the world, you can read it in two ways. The strait won't be used as a weapon by Iran, and Iran won't be used as a weapon by the British. And because the president understood that, he is bringing an end to the 47-year-old extortion racket. He didn't fight a limited war. He set out the objectives: no nuclear weapons or ability to deliver them, and the U.S. military executed. When Lloyd's of London tipped its hand and canceled insurance for ships in the strait, the president said, fine, your monopoly is over. We'll insure the ships. And when Iran tried to play the Muslim card, they found out that the president had created a new set of alliances around the Board of Peace. And when they tried to close the strait, the president outflanked them and said, no, we'll blockade the strait. But the U.S. did something else, and that's where Bessent's meeting with 𝓱𝓲𝓷𝓭 comes in. For over a year, the U.S. has been tracking the financial flows that have fed the Iranian regime. Guess what? Many of those roads lead to London, as we described in an earlier broadcast. And Bessent, in his meeting with the Chancellor of the Exchequer, 𝓱𝓲𝓷𝓭, let the world know. You see, 𝓱𝓲𝓷𝓭 wasn't the only finance minister that Bessent met with on April 16th. He met with the Japanese and the Italian finance ministers. There was no mention of economic fury with them, just with the British. Now, for centuries, London's playbook was financial control and economic leverage. This administration is ending it, and we'll show you exactly how. But before we get to that, the other huge strategic announcement is the Israeli-Lebanon ceasefire. Here's the key statement by the president. But the U.S. will separately work with Lebanon and deal with the Hezbollah situation in an appropriate manner. Israel will not be bombing Lebanon any longer. They are prohibited from doing so by the USA. Enough is enough. Here's how Barak Ravid at Axios described the reaction to that post. Trump shocked Netanyahu with posts declaring Lebanon strikes prohibited. And then in another post, the president added, again, this deal is not tied in any way to Lebanon, but we will make Lebanon great again. Now let's turn to Israel. And this is the part that makes the 𝓘𝓷𝓽𝓻𝓸𝓭 analysis collapse entirely. They looked at Trump bombing Iran and said he's doing Netanyahu's bidding. Well, here's what that misses. Netanyahu needed Iran. A permanent Iranian threat was the justification for a permanent emergency government. It kept the secular Palestinian Authority weak, it kept the two-state solution buried, and it kept Likud in power. Before October 7th, Netanyahu's government actually funded Hamas through Qatar, precisely because they didn't want a governing secular Palestinian partner. They wanted to keep the threat alive and keep the game in play. Trump did not do Netanyahu's bidding. He took Netanyahu's leverage away. Those are opposite things. Now, if you're tired of being fed clickbait propaganda about Trump's intentions, you need to subscribe to Promethean Action's free newsletter. We've been showing our subscribers the big picture, the strategic battle unfolding between Donald Trump's American Republic and the forces of empire. The link is in the description. And now London is starting to sweat. So here's what nobody is connecting. Bessent didn't just warn Exchequer Chancellor Reeves about Iran. He warned her about money, London's money, and the architecture behind it. The president himself named it back on April 11th in a Truth Social in all caps, world extortion. That's not rhetoric, that's a precise description of how the City of London has run the global financial system for over a century, and Bessent is now systematically dismantling it. Here's how the architecture works. Think about what London actually prices. The global gold fix and other metals through the London Metal Exchange and the ICE, the Intercontinental Exchange. The price of oil through the Brent crude benchmark since 1988. Shipping rates on every barrel of oil that moved through the strait, determined by Lloyd's war risk premiums. And every regional crisis sent traders to London and allowed them to manipulate prices. Managed conflict wasn't just a geopolitical tool. It was a revenue stream. Trump called it world extortion. He's right. Now, a lot of people have been talking about how Trump's moves have busted up the Lloyd's racket by offering U.S. insurance on shipping and by taking the straight choke point out of play. But before that, even bigger moves were going on that most people didn't notice. Vivify Mariposa pulls the curtain back in an important post entitled, "The System That Owns You, How It Was Built, and Why It's Breaking." She describes how Trump's tariff offensive has caused a dramatic shift in the economic balance of power. Because of Trump's moves, physical gold has been moving from London vaults to New York. Copper pricing is migrating from the London Metal Exchange to American markets. And London's own exchange has publicly conceded that the shift is permanent. Now, Mariposa concludes by saying, the pricing authority is moving, gold to American vaults, copper to COMEX, LNG contracts referencing American benchmarks, London is not being replaced by Qatar. London is being bypassed by New York. And the people who know it best just gathered at the London Defense Conference, right in London, right in the middle of Trump's offensive. One of them was Lord William Hague. He was the UK Foreign Secretary from 2010 to 2014, the man who helped negotiate the Iran nuclear conflict that Trump just dismantled. And after leaving government, he became chair of ICE Futures Europe, the London Commodities Exchange, which is losing its position to American markets. And he also moderated the conference, mourning the collapse of the transatlantic order. In essence, he gave the eulogy. One man, three threads of the same story. And the rest of the conference tells it all. Look at previous London defense conferences. They were addressed by prime ministers, attended by dozens of congressmen, and leading American officials and think tankers. This year, no prime minister, one congressman, and the administration was represented by an assistant Commerce Department secretary. Now, last week we reported that the British Air Marshal had used the occasion of this conference to warn that Britain hadn't updated its war plans since the end of the Cold War. And the United Kingdom Defense Secretary Healey also used the conference to try and reassure the audience that the United States is absolutely locked into NATO. Well, in the meantime, President Trump was posting denunciations of NATO, calling them a paper tiger, announcing the United States doesn't need NATO, and responding to the British and European offer on the Gulf with, "I told them to stay away." So what does an empire do when its special relationship collapses? Its financial pricing nodes are moving to New York, its Iranian leverage is gone, and Besant is delivering economic fury to the Chancellor of the Exchequer on the permanent record. It sends the king. So let's go back to the Hudson Institute, which is one of the premier neocon perpetual war mouthpieces in the United States. Luke Coffey is a senior fellow at Hudson, and he's also the only American, or at least the first American, to serve under a British defense minister. This is what he said on April 13th. There might be no better figure than King Charles to help rebuild the personal bridge across the Atlantic. Not policy, not trade, not finances, the king's personal charm with Donald Trump. Well, that's not a strategy. That's a prayer. Because Donald Trump isn't ending the personal relationship. He's ending the structural one, the one that locked America into London's financial and strategic architecture for 80 years. And no king is going to put that back together. So here's where we are. Netanyahu was told to sit down. London's pricing nodes are moving. The London Defense Conference is whistling past the geopolitical graveyard, and now King Charles is dispatched to Washington as the empire's last diplomatic card. Trump named it world extortion, and when you name the system, you can begin to end it. Now, when you see that, you're going to understand how important it is to look at the big picture and to be part of that fight. Promethean Action is building a movement that can help President Trump finish that fight. And if you want to be a part of it, go to our website and become a paying member or contributor. Because a king's visit won't save what Donald Trump has already broken. The only question now is how fast it falls, and that's up to you. This has been your Saturday Wrap. Thanks for watching.
Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at 𝓘𝓷𝓽𝓻𝓸𝓭𝓾.
Well, as you can see, man, we maybe have a new king. I love it. I love it. And besides what Susan had to say, there's one more thing I want to bring to your attention. We have the 4 cornerstones, but there's one more. There's one more aspect of the cabal that I didn't bring up yet. What is that? That is their playground. Their playground. They wanted Israel to be their playground. That's how come Israel's filled with a lot of pedophiles. That's why a lot of the deep state evil, corrupt politicians in the United States and other places. They have dual citizenship with Israel. Why? Because Israel was the playground. This is an exciting time to be alive, folks, and it brings my heart joy to see that my life work and all the things that I've learned through my years of trial and error and learning how to be a warrior, learning how to be a man and stand in my own power. My life has been about learning deep stuff, wisdom, and at the same time, very few people who study ancient metaphysics, Toltec, and spirituality delve into the rabbit holes around conspiracy theories or truth seekers is what it really is, and no conspiracy about any of it. But not very often we see people who have abilities in the shaman attributes and spiritual to be politically inclined at the same time. But I've walked that journey myself on both sides from the time I was a kid. And I do my best with my videos to include some deep thought. Not much in this video, but I've got a whole playlist developing. I've just got it started now. I've got 6 or 7 videos in there now called Timeless Treasures. So I encourage you to do a little bit of deep thinking and research and touching that spark of the divine that's inside you. That's true spiritual awakening. The great awakening is not about the corruption and taking the evil off the planet without having a spiritual growth take place at the same time. The spiritual growth is by far more powerful and more important than any of the rest. One can't happen without the other, so they both go together. And that's how my life turned out. All my research and down rabbit holes looking into the truth of conspiracy theories from the 90s right on up till now. And my study of ancient metaphysics, Toltec, spiritualism started back in the early 80s. I think it was 81. I took my first course on that. So all of those things are coming together. It's like 2 triangles. One points up and one points down, and they come together to form one. And that is symbolic. That's a symbolism of very sacred information, extremely sacred information. We are in the most amazing time that the world has ever seen. So hope this video give you a real quick, brief overview of how things tie together. Like my videos, share them. So many people like a video and they don't share it. It doesn't make any sense. You know, if a person goes to the work of putting together a video, the best thing that you could do for that person is like it and share it. Share it. I don't care if it's mine or not. If you don't like my videos, don't share it. Don't like it. But if you do like them, take that extra step and prove it. Put some action behind you. I go through a lot of work putting some of these videos together. 45 years of studying ancient metaphysics and Toltec and spirituality mingled into my drive of looking for the truth. It's got to be worth at least a coffee. And I like my coffee, so you can support my channel that way too. I got the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description down below. And even in that description as well, there's a way you can support my channel on a monthly contribution. I'm looking forward to seeing more of that happening because I put a lot of work in. I got over 320 videos or thereabouts now, and very close to 500,000 views. So I started rebuilding my whole platform at the beginning of the pandemic because 4 videos I produced to expose the human trafficking wiped me off of every platform I had. I had Twitter, Facebook, Minds, and LinkedIn. All 4 of those platforms, they took me right off. I didn't even get jail time. I never even had my videos taken down. They banned me. Boom. I lost 30,000 followers. So It's been a journey. It's been a fun one, but a lot of work, and a lot of thinking, and a lot of research. And I really, truly hope that this little video here will help you understand that we're really close to all four pillars of the cabal being cleaned up. But now the work begins for us. As Trump said when he came down the escalator, when he was inaugurated in 2016, he said he's turning the power back to we the people.
Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people.
What does that mean? That we're going to sit on our butt now because the whole world is just going to be rosy? Boy, you got to be brain dead if you think that way. You really do. You got to be brain dead if you think like that. No. Power back to the people means we are the ones that are going to create this new heaven on earth. So what's your strategy? Where do you fit into that picture? What can you do with the lessons that you've learned in life? How can you make your community better? Not just your own life. This is about humanity. This is about from the North Pole to the South. Whole Earth realm is being transformed. The Great Awakening. So much more. And I've been saying this since 2017, that 2030 will be our agenda, and we will thrive and be happy. We will thrive and be happy, because the economic changes that are taking place are unlike anything that the world has ever seen before. The whole world is going to adopt the original economic engine and thought process and philosophies of the early America, United States of America. The early America was all about individuals having free choice to make the most of themselves, do no harm, but build, create. After all, God hath not given a spirit of fear, but of love and of power and sound mind. Those are three gifts he gave us in abundance. We have all three of those gifts in abundance. They're ours. The question is, have you got the strength to put your whining and complaining and bad habits aside, discipline yourself to build a pathway to each of those gifts? We have to claim those gifts. We have to claim them. When we build a pathway to those three gifts, love, power, and sound mind, don't forget the power and sound mind. Love means diddly squat without the power and the sound mind. And what do I mean by that? Mushy, lovey statements, fluff. No impact. Don't make the change of the world whatsoever. They sound nice. That's it. You put the good things together with power and sound mind, strategic actions, strategy. Build a pathway to that. Those three gifts in your mind. Connect your mind and heart together on all three of those three gifts. Love, power, and sound mind, and make the most of you. Make the most of you. And together we'll make this world a better place. And with that, from the bottom of my heart, from that spark of the divine that's inside me, I wish you and yours peace profound.